Well, hello, and thank you to everyone for being here. Let me know if my volume is a little too high, and I will adjust it for you. I'm the newest representative, the youngest, and the newest addition to the Ohio House. I'm here to discuss some information that we've had on our minds, heavy on our hearts and minds as we're going through the budget. The concern that's been large in my mind is what a tax increase would look like for Ohioans during our budget crisis. So that's something that I've checked into with not only the governor's office, but also the Ohio Department of Taxation. And during that time, in those conversations, we've come up with some numbers, and we've been able to apply those and recognize why the plan that we're taking and the approach that we're taking is the best approach for our economic hardships that we're facing. Ohio's economy is very fragile, and we have a slow recovery coming. Having said that, it's important that we don't rely on taxation at this point for any type of recovery. That's not in the interest of the majority of the House. It's not something that we're willing to take on. When I was appointed, I know that some of my first concerns from my constituents were, why don't we look at this from a taxation point? Why don't we look at filling the hole with taxes? So it was my priority to check into that and tackle the budget head on. So I asked for the analysis to be done by the Ohio Department of Taxation, and this information would help illustrate the ability of the potential tax increases and what that would mean for the Ohio families. Given the high taxes that Ohioans already pay, Ohio's combined state and local tax burden is more than most other states, so that's not something that we're willing to look at if we want to be open for business and we want the climate to stay increasing and growing and becoming a better climate for business and for the families that live here. Instead, we're trying to close that gap with practical approaches such as spending reductions, programmatic reforms, also national revenue growth generated by economic expansion and reduction of state revenues. We determined that the impact on families of four would be a 46% increase on average, and that's a pretty large number, something that I don't think people can handle in the economic times that we face. My job is to help create an environment that helps foster economic development and growth, and I don't think that that would be doing it, would only be hindering it. And one way to stifle the current economic times is by increasing those taxes. So it's something I'm not willing to do, and definitely something my colleagues are not willing to do. Like I said, that we need a 46% increase to generate an $8 billion tax bill, and so the percentage unfortunately would hit homes closest to those who it would be most harmful, the lowest income group, so that's not something that we can approach. Some other information that we had that I think is detrimental to our decision making was the fact that according to the Ohio Tax Foundation, Ohio state and local tax burden is just under 10%, ranking us 18th nationally. Also, Ohio state business tax climate ranks us at 46th. Being lowest, our tax rates are only slightly better than California, Connecticut, New Jersey, and also New York, which I think is pretty sorry. Those are things we want to work on as legislators and things we want to increase. And furthermore, Ohio's personal income tax system is one of the most complex in the nation. So hopefully in my time here in the legislature, we can turn some of these things around and make sure that people know that Ohio is open for business. Having said these things, I will go ahead and turn it over to Representative Amstutz.
Thank you, Representative. I want to add just a couple things, then we'll take questions. I'm pleased that the representative made this request for the analysis. It's been a couple of years since I've looked at this issue, and frankly, with the press of the budget work, I didn't have a chance to look at it to bring it up to date. She's done that and raised the question that's currently pending before us, and then we heard some testimony in committee regarding. So I'm pleased that she went through this exercise and is able to provide it to us through this report that's come back from the Department of Taxation. Furthermore, just to sort of build on some of her comments a little bit, there's been a lot of focus on the $8 billion structural budget gap, but in fact, the pressures to balance the budget are actually larger than that, particularly the growth in Medicaid spending that would occur if no policy changes were made. So that adds on top of the problem that we have with the $8 billion gap. But I think this report isn't attempting to stretch the issue out further than necessary. I think it's kind of a middle of the road kind of analysis, and I think that's a useful thing to have here as we attempt to evaluate the options that we've chosen not to take. And that's kind of what this is about. This is what we're not doing. On Thursday, we'll talk about what we are doing, and looking forward to discussion in that area as well.